There's a new God of War game coming out. It stars Faye, the frost giant warrior, mother of Atreus, the woman whose death literally set the entire Norse saga in motion. She owned the Leviathan axe before Kratos did. She went toe-to-toe with Thor in battle. She orchestrated the events of 2 entire games from beyond the grave. And the internet's response? They edited the game's poster to put a washing machine and put her in an apron. Today we're talking about wokeness in games, quote unquote. The moment a woman is placed at the front of a video game, a certain corner of the internet goes into a storm of outrage, memes, and bad faith criticism wrapped in the language of just criticism.
Like the God of War thing, I think like this is the reason why I thought God of War and like the character like was stupid. Like number one, God of War has been a series that's been going on for 15 years and it's had the same main character for the entire time. Number two, I think the character is uglified from its actual actress, and I think that that's weird, and it was an intentional decision of them prioritizing realism over appeal or aesthetic value.
So now it's a bad thing to prioritize realism?
Kratos is the peak masculine male character, and the people that are playing it are overwhelmingly men. If you swap it over to being a middle-aged suburban mom who has a magic sword that she can talk to, nobody gives a shit about it. So
do not buy this game. You guys have to make these companies understand we are the consumer. What we say goes, not what they want. They keep winning and ruining it because we don't put our foot down. This is ridiculous. I don't care about the agendas. I don't care about the politics. Keep that out of
agendas. It's just a woman.
My movies, my shows, and my games. I don't care. Stop forcing this shit down my throat. I don't want it. Like, this is ridiculous. I'm over it, bro. I'm not buying this game, bro. I'm not buying this game. And I'm probably not even gonna watch it when it gets a playthrough. I don't care about it at all. No, you're annoying.
And this all gets 100 times worse when the woman is also of color. But more on that later. The God of War Laufey reveal is the latest and clearest example of this, but it's far from the only one. I actually think it's time we stopped calling it controversy, because controversy implies 2 legitimate sides. But that's not what's happening here. This is not discourse. Let's start with the facts of the game itself and talk about who this character is, because it's very important to know who she is and not what rage baiters are telling us about her. Laufey follows Faye, full name Laufey the Just, who wakes up in the Everywhen, the afterlife of the gods, right after her funeral pyre. The story runs parallel to the events of the 2018 God of War, as Faye fights through a realm of gods from across different world mythologies to protect the plan she put in place for Kratos and Atreus. The game is directed by Ariel Lawrence, a 17-year veteran who worked on every God of War title ever made. The combat is described as building on the modern God of War system while pulling inspiration from the original Greek trilogy. It's fast, brutal, and air combo heavy. Faye is played by Deborah Ann Wall, who you might know from Daredevil. Faye is a frost giant warrior who, as I said before, fought Thor himself and owned the Leviathan axe before Kratos did. This game is, by every measure, a legitimate, lore-rooted entry in one of gaming's greatest franchises. Faye is not a new character shoehorned in. She's the center around which 2 whole games run. That's who Faye the Just is. And yet, within hours of the reveal, parts of the internet had already nicknamed it God of Laundry. They edited the official poster art to replace Faye's companion, the Cube, with a washing machine. They put her in an apron, along with other demeaning misogynistic things. Let's be honest about what the washing machine joke actually means. It's not a critique of the combat system or a complaint of the lore. It's a statement that a woman's place is to be a servant in a given household. No matter how powerful, how mythologically significant, how narratively essential Faye is, putting her at the center of the screen is inherently absurd to these people. To them, she belongs in the kitchen or laundry room doing chores, not fighting gods. That's not criticism, that's plain misogyny, and it's gross behavior. There's another AI-generated clip I saw of Kratos bossing Faye around, asking for sandwich, and being downright abusive.
Woman! My sandwich! Harder. Woman! My beer! Now! Woman, kneel! Now!
Bruh. First of all, Kratos would never treat his wife like that. That clip is purely incel fan fiction.
Gonna make me pick that one up? Good boy.
So cute! So cute!
Kratos. You alright?
This is not new whatsoever. It's been like this for a while now. South of Midnight, released last year, it's a beautiful, original action-adventure game set in the American Deep South, steeped in black folklore and Southern Gothic atmosphere. I honestly love this game and highly recommend it. The protagonist, Hazel, is a young black woman who discovers she's a weaver, someone who can literally heal the wounds of the world through magic. But like clockwork, the anti-woke crowd lost their minds, for no other reason except black woman. South of Midnight is such a perfect case study because it didn't do any of the things these critics claim to oppose. There was no race swapping of an existing character. There was no existing IP being hijacked. Compulsion Games built something entirely new, with its own story, its own world, and its own mythology. They did everything by those supposed rules, and it still wasn't enough, because it was never about the rules. Hazel is black. That was the problem. Full stop. These people claim they want original stories for black characters. They say, make your own. And even when they make their own, they still hate it. The same thing happened with Horizon Zero Dawn and its sequel Forbidden West. The games featured Aloy, a red-haired woman in a post-apocalyptic world. I'm sure you've seen her on multiple thumbnails. The reveal triggered review bombing and complaints about Aloy having a, quote, hairy face and not being pretty. They weren't complaining about the gameplay nor the story, but her face, in post-apocalyptic world, mind you. Forspoken, which starred Faye Holland, a black woman from New York transported to a fantasy world, immediately called, quote, a feminist woke nightmare by reviewers who hadn't even played it. One reviewer wrote exactly those words. I think the game had genuine issues worth discussing, but the discourse never got there, because the conversation started and ended at who Faye was, not what the game was. And we could go back further. The Last of Us Part 2, featuring Abby as a playable character, she was called manly looking, a complaint that has nothing to do with anything in the game. I could go on and on with these examples, but the pattern is clear. One of the things we should pay attention to is the words these people use. Woke, DEI, girl boss, forced diversity, the agenda. These words make bigotry sound like critique. They give people a way to express their opposition to representation without having to say the quiet part out loud. But watch what happens when you remove those words and ask the actual question. What specifically is wrong with this game? In the case of God of War Laufey, the game hasn't even come out yet. The combat looked excellent in the reveal. The director is a franchise veteran. The story is deeply rooted in existing lore. There's nothing to critique. The only thing that changed from the last game is that the protagonist is a woman. In South of Midnight, players like myself and critics who actually played it praised its atmosphere, its world building, and originality. The backlash came almost entirely from people who hadn't touched it. This is what separates genuine criticism from manufactured outrage. Genuine criticism engages with the thing. Manufactured outrage just needs a target. And as one Steam user put it plainly, they said, quote, whenever a black character gets revealed in a video game, the reaction is immediately woke, even when no one knows anything about the actual game. And I have to agree with that user. Now let's talk about the preference argument. I just prefer playing as male characters. That's a valid preference. Sure, personal preference is fine, but preference doesn't explain the organized review bombing before release. It doesn't explain the edited box art with washing machines. It doesn't explain the harassment campaigns directed at developers. It doesn't explain why David Jaffe, the original creator of God of War, felt the need to publicly call Laufey uninspired and dull, based on a reveal trailer. Preference is quiet. You don't like something? Move on to the next. But what we're seeing is loud, organized hate. And it happens every single time a woman or person of color is centered in a major release. Game director Ariel Lawrence addressed this directly after the Laufey backlash. She rejected the premise that Faye is somehow less capable than Kratos, a direct response to the sexist undercurrent of the criticism. She said she believes the game will win over even the most devoted Kratos fans once they play it. And she shouldn't have to say that, but she did, because this is the environment that's been created. Someone might ask, why does any of this matter? Games come out, people complain online, the world keeps spinning. Well, it matters because this kind of sustained, coordinated harassment has real effects. It affects which games get greenlit. It affects which stories get told. It creates an environment where developers second-guess themselves, where publishers get nervous, where the pressure to default to safe protagonists, aka straight white men, remains huge. It matters because there are players out there, black players, female players, players from communities that have never seen themselves in the protagonist slot, who deserve to play games that center them. And every time a game tries to do that, this mob shows up to tell them they don't belong. South of Midnight gave black players a protagonist steeped in their cultural mythology. God of War, Laufey, is giving us a woman who has been mentioned many times finally stepping into her own story. Faye is a frost giant warrior, and the original wielder of the Leviathan axe. She is not a laundry machine. She is the god of war. In other words, put some respect on her name. The fact that putting her in the spotlight has caused this much noise tells you everything you need to know about who the noise is actually coming from and why you shouldn't listen to it. Play the game and judge it on what it is. Thanks a lot for watching. Like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments, which game do you think got the most unfair backlash for this exact reason? I want to hear your picks.